YouTube, what's good? Welcome back to another video on the channel. In this video, I'm going to be explaining the concept of input-based thinking and how it's the cheat code to getting rich in all aspects of life. If you guys don't know who I am, my name is Kevin Martins. I'm 23 years old, and I have been able to get financially free in just 2 years thinking this way. And not only have I been able to achieve these monetary goals, I've also been able to achieve physical goals and mental health goals as well, thinking this way. And so the picture in the left here, you see me, before the ideology of input thinking, and then after, you see me when I was actually able to put it into fruition. And this was a simple shift of mindset that completely changed my life, not only, through my physique, but through my businesses. And I want to explain how exactly you can do this today and start implementing these strategies when it comes to the way of thinking. And so now I want to introduce this concept right here. You don't achieve your goals, you become the person who achieves them. So for example, most of you watching this video, you most likely want to make $10,000 a month, right? You need to become somebody who is capable of making that money. So you don't go after the output, the result, you build the character that can attract it, the identity. So it's really about framing it a little bit differently, asking yourself these questions like, who do I need to become to get to X goal? And now I want to introduce the difference between input and output-based type goals, right? So in the beginning of my fitness journey, and again, I'm going to be tying this into my business later on, but I want to show you how I did this for my fitness first. In the beginning, I was very heavy on this output type based goal, which was I want to get a six pack, right? I wanted to get a six pack. I also wanted to get jacked. And this was me right before I started going to the gym. I was just a normal kid trying to get healthy, right? But the moment I reframed this and I said to myself, okay, I actually want to become the person who can get a six pack. But I thought to myself, okay, what is that person doing on a day to day, right? To get to this goal right here where I have a visible six pack and, I'm jacked. And I knew for a fact I had to change these three main things, right? The training, the dieting, and the lifestyle to get to that goal. So I was training like 4 times a week, right? Doing abs, 3 to 4 cardio sessions a week. I was also on a calorie deficit, right? So I was eating like below my maintenance, like at least 300, but also completely revolutionizing my lifestyle to where I'm sleeping efficiently, I'm drinking enough water, and I'm limiting like junk food and alcohol and really taking this shit seriously, right? On top of that, there was something that I truly had to do before I even got to this point. And it was bulking, right? And this was something that was needed in the process. And this is why I have like an insane moon face here. I was pretty freaking big. I was like 195 pounds at like 5'10", and I was pretty fluffy, right? But I knew that I needed to get to this version of myself to kind of build the foundation to then shred down and get a six pack, right? Because not only did I want a six pack, but I also wanted to get, just muscular, right? But this was something that I had to go to, right? This like extreme to be able to build that foundation, right? And then, I eventually did it where I got a visible six pack, I got my dream physique, and I was happy with myself, right? But this whole process, right, took about 2 years, right? And it was every single day, dialing my training, dialing my diet and the lifestyle as well. But you're probably wondering watching this video, like, how does this connect with business? This is awesome, right? Cool, you got a six pack, but now what? So then, once I got the body I wanted, I wasn't quite yet fulfilled. I knew for a fact, like, I wanted to start making really good money. And that's when I was like, okay, my new goal now is to start making $10,000 a month with organic drop shipping. And obviously in the beginning, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows, right? I was starting from ground zero. I was working Uber Eats. I had just moved to Florida, starting from complete scratch, only had like 3 to 5 grand to my name, I think. And I was truly trying to make this shit work, right? But again, I was placing a very output-based type goal. I want to make 10K a month. That's what like my monkey brain was trying to tell me. But the moment I reframed it, and I thought back to my fitness journey, okay, obviously I was able to get shredded, get a six pack, get huge. How do I look at this from a different frame and really just focus on the inputs that are going to get me to be a successful organic drop shipper, which I now am, right? And so I started looking at the inputs that I needed to really focus on. This time there were 4 different inputs, 4 high leverage tasks that I needed to focus on for my business, right? And that was obviously selecting the right product, filming for that product, posting every single day, and again, changing my lifestyle for it to be conducive to my goal, which was taking no days off and staying away from any sort of distractions or dopamine traps that I was used to in the past, right? Because at this time, right, I was jacked, right? But I was still doom scrolling, drinking, partying, getting with random chicks. And that for a fact was not conducive for me to get rich, right? So I knew I had to change my lifestyle to actually start optimizing for money rather than looks, right? And so that's exactly what I did. I started writing a written promise to myself back in 2024. So last year, you guys can literally see the timestamp here. This was in March of 2024 at 6:36 p.m. in Florida when I was living with my cousin, right? Literally just sleeping on his couch. And I wrote to myself, this year, I want to make $20,000 profit, right? I want to learn how to build a successful business from scratch, live in, Florida officially, right? Not like literally sleeping on a couch. And I will feel the best and I will give it my all. And so I started to break down this goal. Okay, so for me to make $20,000 profit by the end of the year, I knew for a fact I had to be making at least 50K revenue a month at 20% profit margins. Again, this was me back in the day when I was doing like normal drop shipping before I got to organic. Because now with organic, I'm able to like save, anywhere from 50 to 70% profit margins. But I was literally just breaking down the goal. And this is what I want to explain, like actually breaking down the goal for what it is and going into every single minute detail, right? Not only about the goal, but also about the processes that were needed, right? / inputs to get to that point. And so I was talking about like, okay, store ideas, what type of niches I wanted to get into, right? What type of products, right? What type of content I had to start making. I was going over like AOV, what my profit margins had to be and how to actually successfully scale. And I was going into every single nitty gritty detail to actually get to that goal. I was breaking it down. I was actually creating a blueprint for myself. And at the end of the day, I knew for a fact I had to kill my old self, right? This was the Kevin before that was jacked, that had all the girls, but I was optimizing at this very moment for, just that type of stuff. And so I knew for a fact I had to let that stuff go and start reshaping my lifestyle and my identity to become the Kevin that's making $10,000 a month with organic dropshipping and getting away from all this stuff. So now, the brutal truth behind everything that I'm telling you right now is that if the current you right now watching this video was capable of achieving your goal, whatever that may be, you already would have. Right? And that's the sad reality. Whether you want to get rich, whether you want to get a six-pack, whether you want to start, some sort of business or move outside your hometown, whatever it may be, if you were capable of doing that, you would already be there. So you don't need new goals. You need a new version of yourself, right? A new identity to be able to be worthy of this goal, right? And so the reason I'm so passionate about this is because this shit truly works, guys, right? You are currently a stone. You are a malleable, carvable stone, and your identity is exactly that. You're a stone of pure potential, right? And your job every single day from now on, right, is to wake up daily, chisel the stone, and sculpt who you want to become, right? But first, you need to define the sculpture first. You need to actually have a goal set in place, something written that you're chasing every single day. Because if you don't, your life becomes a little bit jagged, unfocused, and you're not really going in with intention, right? So going back to my journey, I was driving Uber Eats all day, every day, but at the same time, I was visualizing this life of me living in Miami, making organic dropshipping work and actually owning a real business that's making me money on a consistent basis, right? And for a fact, this is something that I wanted to do. Same thing goes with this. I used to visualize myself, right? I used to visualize myself getting to that six-pack look, shredded and muscular, right? I used to literally visualize this shit. And, obviously I was able to do it, but with the right inputs. But none of this would have made sense if I didn't visualize it first. And so pain is going to be the currency to chisel down to that version of you, right? And pain, right, in this instance is the currency for change, right? And pain appears when effort meets resistance. And let me tell you why. The resistance that you're getting at this very moment where like you don't want to work, you're procrastinating and you're leaving stuff off for later is your old version of yourself. It's your old identity, right? It's the version of yourself that's been living in your body for the last 20, 15 years. I don't know how old you are, but it's literally trying to fight for survival, right? And I remember in my journey, in this instance right here, I was fighting for this old version of Kevin. I remember I would wake up some days, not want to work, right? Not want to show up and post consistently, do product research, skip on burner sessions, not make websites, etc. But I was acknowledging the fact that, holy shit, this is like the old version of me fighting back. And I knew for a fact I had to start looking at, okay, what is the version of Kevin that had reached my goal doing in this very instance right now? Is he brain rotting on TikTok, skipping meals, or, not showing up every single day? Probably not, right? And so again, I was fighting this resistance of the old version of myself to then become the version that I wanted to become, right? And again, guys, this doesn't only apply with business, organic drop shipping, your health. This applies to literally everything in the world, right? It's all about the inputs that you're doing every single day, the actionable stuff that you're doing in the physical world to get to your goal. Because I tell this to everybody, I tell this to all my students, like, it's amazing that you're setting really good goals for yourself. It's amazing that you're manifesting and visualizing, but none of that makes sense, right? None of that is actually going to translate to the physical world if you don't actually do it, right? For example, if I plop my arm down on my desk, right, I need to obviously think about moving my arm up, but also I have to actually do the action of moving it. It goes hand in hand, right? Both are necessary, but they go hand in hand. I hope that makes sense to you guys. Because not only do you need to have the mentality, the vision, but you also need to have the execution to be able to do that. And so there's two paths in this life, guys. I'm gonna keep it so simple here. The first path is the path of desperation. You're avoiding the responsibility, you're avoiding growth, you're avoiding any sort of pain in your life, any sort of like stress, and you live a life of quiet desperation. Or you live the path of the hero, where you're facing chaos, you're embracing the pain that comes from growing, you're sculpting your identity, and you're confronting your problems head first. And both paths require pain, no matter how you put it. The first path, right, you'll know deep inside that because you avoided all the responsibilities, right, the accountability, and overall stress, you're gonna know deep inside that, man, I probably could have reached that point. I probably could have. And you're gonna have to live with that pain in you forever and be like, wow, I chose the coward's way. I chose the normie way of living my life. And quite honestly, now I'm destined for a life of mediocrity because that's the path I went down, right? And that's gonna cause you a lot of pain. Or you can go down the route where you're facing your problems head on, you're embracing the pain, the stress to actually build you up and grow as a person and almost earn the life that you want. Because your goals, they're not just going to come to you. You can't just manifest your goals and be like, oh yeah, one day it's going to come. Like, unless you play the lottery and get really lucky, that's just not going to happen. You have to earn your goals. You have to earn your food in this life, right, to be able to grow. But both paths are going to be stressful, and pain is unavoidable in this life. But you need to choose the pain that transforms you, because a lot of us are just trying to run from pain. They want to run from pain, stress, anxiety. But that's what actually shapes you as a person and molds you, right, to the sculpture of X goal. And this was the version of Kevin that was making $10,000 a month, right, healthy, wealthy, and truly having the body that he wanted, but also the life he wanted. And yeah, man, this was literally something that completely changed my life. It was a matter of actually looking at the inputs that I needed to do on a day-to-day basis and actually breaking down the goal for what it was, and knowing exactly how I was going to attack that goal every single freaking day and just showing up. Because if you're watching this and you're doing e-commerce, right, you're doing organic drop shipping, if you show up every single solitary day, you give it your all, and you know exactly what you need to be doing, you're gonna do phenomenal. Because with the right effort, guidance, and mentality, bro, you're gonna do great. But you need to show up every single day and truly ask yourself these very hard questions, right? Who do I want to become? What does that person, right, in the future, right? What is that person doing on a day-to-day, right, to get to that point? And so you're almost like becoming that person before you actually are, right? Because when I was eating shit every day, delivering food, I was imagining myself driving a supercar, imagining myself like, you know, showing up to work every single day and doing drop shipping, owning my own business. And I was doing all of that on the day-to-day. Like, obviously I wasn't driving a supercar, but I was doing product research, I was filming, I was posting, and I was aligning my whole entire life to become this version of Kevin. But it was because I started looking at this a little bit differently and really started looking at the inputs, right? And so if you do want to learn a little bit more about pain, right, and how to actually transmutate that pain, right, or insecurity that you have deep inside and use it for your business, go ahead and watch this video. It's called Pain Transmutation is the Fastest Way to Get Rich. Link in the description. I definitely recommend you watch this video because it's definitely going to teach you how you could actually use this pain, right, to chisel into the statue of the person that you want to become, okay? But yeah, guys, a little bit more of a different type of video today. If you guys enjoyed it, make sure you drop a like, subscribe, give me some feedback in the comment section below. Also, if you guys do want to work with me one-on-one personally and start organic dropshipping, or if you're doing organic dropshipping at the moment and want to learn how to scale, you guys can go ahead and take a look at the description below and apply. But with that being said, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.